Hello and welcome to the World Wanderers podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Amanda, and we're your hosts.
Yes, Amanda's back.
I'm back.
From Bali.
Yeah, everyone's pretty excited, I'm sure, for my return.
Everyone?
All our listeners.
Oh, the listeners, yeah. Okay.
And our real friends.
Everyone else, there's no one else here. It's just us. Yeah, you're now the official yoga teacher of the World Wanderers podcast.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I guess pretty excited. Little intimidated, maybe.
So if you're wondering what we're talking about, you should go back to perhaps episode 49, where we talk about Amanda. So Amanda just got back from a trip to Bali. And
just talk all about Amanda.
In episode 49 was the episode right before she left. So we talked about her feelings going into the trip. In episode 35, we talked about planning that trip. So that's the trilogy, which is now coming to a close today.
So if you're not picking up what's being put down right now, go back and listen to the other episodes because they're kind of awesome.
Or just keep listening to this one. You don't need to listen to the other ones. But it'd be good if you did.
Do not turn off this podcast. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, so you were in Bali, Indonesia for 32 days?
30 days.
30 days.
You can actually only get a visa on arrival from Canada and the States and Australia. I'm not sure about the other countries, but for 30 days, you can get a 30-day visa on arrival. And you have to go through this whole process to get your visa extended. So mine is exactly 30 days.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They're pretty full on there about their visa process. Like if you want to get it extended, you actually have to go to the embassy and give your fingerprints.
Really?
Yeah.
They seem to have some crazy legal stuff going on in Indonesia.
Yeah. Death penalty for drugs. Pretty crazy there.
Yeah. That's very crazy. So you fly in, where does everyone fly into when you go to Bali?
Denpasar.
Denpasar.
Yeah. It's the only airport on the whole island. The island's pretty small.
Yeah, is it? I didn't know how to like picture Bali in my mind.
So it's like a tiny tropical island surrounded by...
Is it comparable to like Thai Islands or
yeah,
a bit more developed than that?
It's kind of interesting. They don't have tuk-tuks in Bali, which I was really surprised about because tuk-tuks are such a crucial part of all of Southeast Asia from our experiences.
So ubiquitous.
What a big word. And for people who are listening who don't know what a tuk-tuk is a moped with a little like cart on the back that carries people around.
Sounds like something a ladyboy would do.
Tuk-tuk? Ew. Oh my God. There's not that many ladyboys in Bali, I don't think. Maybe that's why they don't have tuk-tuks. Anyways, they've got real vehicles and then mopeds. Most people drive mopeds. But yeah, just a beautiful tropical island. There's ocean surrounding it on all sides, obviously, since it's an island.
That's usually what happens with islands.
And then there's a massive mountain in the middle, as well as a volcano, which we'll talk about later.
And then you did your yoga teacher training in Canggu?
Canggu. It's spelled Canggu.
I feel like you were pronouncing it Canggu for a while.
I think I did. People go back and listen to episode 49. I think I said Canggu. That's what it looks like, but it's Canggu. And Canggu is it's like 30 minutes north of Seminyak, which is it's a bigger place. More people know Seminyak than Canggu. And it's also close to Kuta, which is the biggest city the most populous city in Bali.
Okay. And we talked about like you choosing your yoga teacher training place and the reasons you did that in episode 49. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to talk about that on this episode. But how was your yoga teacher training?
It was really, really good. I went over there kind of just like feeling nervous, feeling excited, feeling anxious, feeling really unsure of what to expect. And we talked about it in episode 49, but I don't...
49.
That's where it's at.
Say that one more time.
it's hard for me to go into a situation where I really don't know what to expect at all. It's something I struggle with because I do like to sort of have control over.
But I think that's something everyone struggles with, especially when you're going into like a group situation.
Yeah, totally.
That you don't know when you're going to be an outsider.
Yeah, and it was actually pretty cool. I reached out to the guest house that I was staying at. It was called Serenity Eco Guest House, which is where the teacher training took place and where I was staying. And just to confirm my pickup for like the following day, I guess it was, I reached out to them when I got to Vancouver. And they sent me back, oh, you're actually going to be taking a car with another student from your yoga teacher training named Chelsea. And I was like, okay, sweet. They're like, she's on your flight from Taipei over to Denpasar. And I tried to find her on Facebook. I wasn't sure which one was her. Like there was a whole bunch of Chelsea Orris on Facebook. And then when I got to Taiwan, I had a Facebook request from her because I'm really easy to find on Facebook. And so I confirmed her, and then I kind of looked through her photos to see what she looked like. And I found her. I like got onto the plane and she was one row in front of me, like, and 2 seats over, and the plane was super empty. So it was super easy for me to find her.
But, you found her on the plane? Not.
Yeah. Like in Taiwan, I found her like,
but not in the airport, on the plane.
I like saw her in the airport, but I was with a group of people that I'd met, and I kind of didn't want to go up and be like, hey, are you so-and-so? And then be like in this awkward situation. So she was sitting right by me. So I went in and introduced myself. And then, yeah, it was cool because I arrived and we had an hour drive to Canggu where we got to know each other. And then we checked in and got dinner together. And I had basically from the time I arrived to the time I actually met the people in my training, I had 24 hours. So I spent the next like morning with Chelsea, and then we went to the welcome circle together. So it was kind of nice because I felt like I almost went in there with a friend. But I mean, there was one couple in the training, and outside of that, nobody knew each other. So it wasn't really like I was alone in my decision to be there by myself. Like it was, 98% of the people were like that.
So you kind of were starting to get comfortable even before you got there since you had met someone? Did that take away a lot of the nerves? Yeah,
definitely. It was kind of cool. On, I guess, skipping ahead to the 30th day, we went back to like the same circle, and Chelsea and I went in together again, and we're like, oh, we should sit in the same place. And it's funny too, because the girl who was Chelsea was on my left and the girl who was on my right walked in, and the space was still like open next to me. And so that same girl came and sat with me. She's like, oh, I might as well like sit here. It's like full circle from like 30 days before, which is pretty cool.
So what's this circle?
Oh, it's just like a circle in the room. Like we had a welcome circle.
Oh, like you were sitting in a circle.
And then our graduation ceremony was in a circle.
Okay. So what was the actual day-to-day like doing yoga teacher training?
So in the morning we did an asana practice, which is actually the physical practice of yoga. Is asana.
What does asana mean?
Yoga in Sanskrit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when people are like, oh, it's asana yoga, that's just like...
So you know how it's like Shavasana, Adho Mukha Shavasana, Urdhva Mukha Shavasana, Uttanasana, Utkatasana. All of the Sanskrit words end with asana.
Okay.
Because asana is the practice of yoga.
Oh,
yeah, kind of like all starts to tie together when you start learning about it.
Yeah.
But so we started with, and like asana is the physical practice of yoga. So there's the mental aspect and the breath and all of that. But the asana is like the physical movements where you're creating shapes with your body. So because there was 40 people in the training, we would either practice at 6 in the morning or 7:30. So you alternated every day. So you'd either be the early group or the later group. And then we started again at 10 a.m. and we had meditation for like half an hour to an hour. And then we would do lecture until 1. And then we'd have a lunch break till 2:30. And then we'd have class from 2:30 to 6:45 at night with like a 15-minute break around 4:30. And so we just learned throughout all of that.
Was that pretty, when you were looking at other yoga teacher trainings, is that like schedule pretty universal? Like you're just spending your whole day doing...
Yeah.
Did some of the other ones seem to have more actual like practicing of yoga?
I didn't look too, like, not everyone has their schedules. Like, some of them will have their modules and stuff, but even this one, I didn't get my schedule until after I'd already signed up. So I'm not too sure the details of other ones. I think it's like common to do some sort of practice. The interesting thing about what we did with our asana practice is it was very slow. And it was, the first 2 weeks was with one teacher and the second 2 weeks was with another teacher. And both of them were consistent in the fact that it was slow practice. So we really took it back to like a beginner level and really broke down the practice of yoga.
So when you say slow, do you mean like slow as in like you were doing like, not very many things, or
like intro to yoga slow?
Okay. But
so like, as somebody who's been practicing yoga, it was super frustrating for me at first, but slow as in like you hold each individual thing for a long time? No. Well, no, like just like slow. Like we would spend like 45 minutes some days, like just working through breathing, lying on the floor, and then moving into like holding our knees and rotating our hips. And then we do like a really, really slow Surya Namaskar A. We didn't even do Surya Namaskar B until like the third week.
What are those?
Sun salutations, you know them.
Okay.
Sun salutation A and B. So it was just slow. Like, what's another word? It was like if you went to a beginner class.
Easy, simple, basic.
Like really breaking it down.
So like really basic.
Very basic.
Okay.
Which was super, super frustrating for me for the first few days.
Why was it frustrating?
I don't really like doing anything slowly. There's the reason why I don't really prefer to go to yin yoga unless I'm really, really sore from like hiking or skiing or some sort of other activity. I like fast moving yoga. I really like to flow. But it was really good. The point of doing that is because we all have these habitual patterns in everything we do, like our day-to-day lives. We have all these habitual patterns. And so we take that into our yoga practice. So if you practice over and over again, you do these same movements and your body does them the same time, like the same way every time. And so it's really about taking it back to sort of a beginner level and being open to relearning and changing that, because you need to know the foundations of yoga in order to teach the foundations of yoga to people and to be able to see what they're doing wrong in their practice. And
if you're learning any like sort of complex thing, it helps to break it down into its individual component parts and really like perfect those tiny pieces before moving through the entire thing again.
Yeah, totally. Like
so were you feeling like maybe thinking in your head going in that you're going to get a lot of like really hard yoga practice out of it as well?
I mean, it wasn't like hard yoga practice, but I was like, oh, I'm going to come back with like more strength, and I'm going to come back more flexible, and I'm going to come back, having improved my physical yoga practice. And I think to a lot of degrees I have, because I've worked through these like basic things that I keep in mind now when I practice, but I just didn't see that at the time. I was like, oh, why are we, I've worked so hard to be able to do a proper chaturanga. Like, why do I have to put my knees down now and modify?
Okay. So it's like you were picturing in your head, like maybe doing some new stuff and pushing yourself that way and improving your practice that way. But like you ended up, because you're learning how to teach, you're working more on like clarifying what you already know. So you end up with like more of a solid foundation, but less like new stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So first few days was a little bit frustrating, but after that I was just tried to go in like really accepting whatever came up. I kind of just moved past this idea that I was going to be at this like high level of fitness from doing this like 30 days of yoga type thing, and just moved it more into, I came there to get a teacher training certificate and to learn how to be a good teacher, and that I have my whole life to continue practicing yoga.
So you were kind of just expecting something maybe like a little bit different? Like you weren't really thinking about how much yoga teaching you were going to be doing, and thinking more just about like the yoga.
Yeah, I guess when you think of yoga, you think of, you go to yoga class and the practice of yoga, and that's how I was thinking about it. But there's actually so much more to yoga, which was what the whole teacher training was about. I definitely wasn't the only person in that boat, there was, I think probably like half of us were like, oh my gosh, like we're not doing any exercise. Like this is so frustrating. We're sitting all day, because you do more sitting than you do anything else.
Okay. So a lot of people thought like you're just going to be doing yoga like crazy.
Yeah. You don't do yoga like crazy. You learn about yoga like crazy. But yeah, I guess to get back to your question about day to day. So every morning after the asana practice, we had breakfast. And so anyone who was staying at Serenity, where it was at, had free breakfast included with our stay. So there was kind of like always a group of us that had breakfast there. So pretty much every morning I had rice pudding with banana and coconut milk for breakfast. That was my breakfast while I was there. And then for the first few days, there was a lot of us that would eat at Serenity. And then after the first few days, there's people who would start walking to some of the restaurants. For not having any sidewalks and for being a pretty small town, Canggu has some really, really good restaurants.
So how small is it?
It's pretty small. I couldn't find the population online. I tried to find it for my blog, but I couldn't find it.
Is it just like there's a lot of like foreign people living there? Is that why the restaurant? Are they like Western style restaurants?
Yeah. So if you want to go to like an Indonesian style restaurant, they're called warangs, and you walk in and they've got all their food in these like glass cases, and you just like pick from that. Bali belly, which is basically traveler's diarrhea in the form of whatever disgusting bugs are in the water in Bali, is like the sickness that's there. And it's pretty common to get it. And it comes with like a fever and body aches and chills and that sort of stuff. It's really, really common. So I was like, I'm not eating food out of a glass case. It's just not happening. But yeah, so there's a restaurant called Crate, which is owned by an Australian woman. And it is literally like a hole in the wall. Like it's a building that like no construction's been done to it. They've basically like painted their menu onto the wall. But it has some of the best food, just like breakfast plates and like very Australian style breakfasts and really good smoothies and sandwiches and some salads.
Do people like go to Canggu for like day trips, or is it kind of just the only reason you'd be there if you were staying there, like at a resort or something?
Canggu's it's a surf town. Okay. So a lot of people go there to surf. There's really good surf there, and you can see like at any given time there's hundreds of people out on the water surfing. I think people do come from Seminyak. Seminyak has good surf as well. So, but Canggu's near Echo Beach, and Echo Beach is known for its surf. So, in terms of like, it's not like Ubud where you'd go for a day to explore, but maybe you'd go for a day for surfing, and then you'd go to one of the good restaurants. There's a few bigger bars. There's a place called Old Man's, and then a place called Deus. And Deus's Sunday nights are like, people come from all over the island for Deus's Sunday night parties, I guess.
What is there anything like special about them?
I didn't go. A bunch of people from my training went after our final assessment, but we had like other assessments the next day, and I was tired, so I didn't go. But they have like live bands. Apparently it's just like a really fun, sweaty dance party. But I went on other nights to Deus, and Deus is like a pretty cool vibe, so I could see how it's popular.
And so for during your yoga teacher training, you kind of described what the day was like, and then it's kind of like you would do like 6 days out of 7 doing that, and then have a day off? Or was the day off kind of random?
5 days and then a day off, 5 days, day off, 5 days, day off. So we had 3 days off, and then with 4 weeks.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 days off in the whole time.
Were you starting to feel like you needed a break by the end of it?
Yeah. Yeah. 5 days of learning it's like classroom style, but not so much. So to just give you an idea, it's this like massive room that looks like a yoga studio, and we'd all set up our yoga mats, and then we'd lie or like sit on like bolsters and these cushions just on the floor. So it's like classroom style, but floor classroom style. So that's kind of how it was set up. And so it's like a lot of sitting, a lot of lying, a lot of listening, that sort of thing. So after 5 days, I was definitely ready for my day off.
And then, but I meant like towards the end, like week 3, were you kind of like starting to look forward to finishing, or was it like were you happy with the rhythm that you were in?
I was happy with the rhythm I was in. I was getting excited to finish though. It's kind of interesting. Like week 1, it's like everything's exciting. Everything's kind of new. Every restaurant I tried, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can't wait to come back. Week 2, it's like I was pretty comfortable. It was in more of a routine. I was getting to know more people. And by week 3, people's like little nuances had kind of come out. People were starting to become annoying. And it's like,
people were starting to become annoying, or you were starting to find people?
Starting to find people annoying. It's kind of like, I'm like, oh, I've eaten like, oh, everything at Beetle Nut tastes the same. Like, I don't want to eat a Beetle Nut anymore. Like, why aren't there any more good restaurants? When it's like, in reality, I've had like 5 things off their menu. Do you know what I'm kind of saying? Like, by week 3, it's like past the point of like, things aren't new and exciting anymore. And you're kind of like past in a routine and starting to like, I guess, pick stuff apart a little bit.
Like starting to fault find or something?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. And then going to the last week, it became a little bit bittersweet because it's like, oh no, I only have like 5 more days here. And then was really like appreciating everything all over again. So it kind of went in phases week by week.
Mm. If you like, so beforehand you were kind of looking forward to it being like this, travel adventure, and you'd have the yoga teacher training. I don't really know what I'm trying to ask, but like, do you think, did it kind of like live up to your expectations?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, would you recommend if someone was thinking about wanting to take a month off to go do something, is like doing a month-long yoga teacher training like the thing you'd recommend, or maybe like a yoga retreat with more time to travel?
I really liked the teacher training. I think it 100% has improved my yoga practice, and it's gotten me a certification that I've really wanted for a little bit now. I think if somebody out there really loves yoga, but you have absolutely no interest in teaching in any way, shape, or form, like maybe a yoga retreat would be better, because the teacher training is like, you do have to do an assessment where you teach, you learn how to sequence, you learn how to put together classes, you learn everything that you need to know to actually be a teacher. And from basically day 2, we started speaking in classes and learning how to instruct. And so that is a huge part of it. And I think that there's, that's a great skill to have in any form. But if that's something that doesn't interest somebody at all, then I'd say a retreat's probably better. I got a lot of fulfillment out of the whole learning process, like learning so much about my body and the human body in general and the human mind. Every time I do something where I learn, and you and I have talked about this so many times on and off the podcast, it's like learning fulfills you in so many different ways. Like it just makes, it's so different than just being somewhere and just, going to see this church or that temple or that show. It's like learning something is just so rewarding.
Yeah. We talked about that in our like, Spanish school episode. But just tell you how nice it feels when you're like learning something, and it really like adds to your trip too, because you get to meet and kind of become friends with people who are all doing the same thing at the same place. And
yeah, and it was pretty cool because there was 40 of us, and everyone's on this like different journey, but at the same time it's like our paths have crossed in this like really big way. So you get to know people on a deeper level, which is cool. Like there's a lot of people have a lot of different personal things that they confront during the teacher training, and it's just cool to be a part of that with people who were complete strangers, I guess.
What do you mean, like people have personal things they confront?
A lot of people do teacher trainings for like healing purposes. Like some people spent a lot of time crying, that sort of thing. Everyone has like their different stuff going on, and I don't know. There's something.
So people who've like something's happened at home and then they want to get away and then they go do.
I don't know. Like that wasn't my journey, and I I wasn't prying at people who were dealing with that, but there was people who, you know, that was their stuff that was going on. So I can't really expand upon that. So I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up, but
okay. I didn't understand.
I mean, it's like a lot of about the teacher training. I think this is most teacher trainings, but mine for sure. A lot of it was about getting to know yourself. And I think that that's really hard for some people. And we did exercises where you sit in front of a partner and you meditate, and then you open your eyes and you stare into their eyes and just like see what happens. And it's just like that's a strange thing, because so often we don't just like stare into people's eyes. Ryan and I are staring at each other now.
Eye contact.
Yeah, like it's a pretty good way to really get to know people. Like I feel like I've made, 40 friends around the world, and there's some of those people that I got to know more than others who I would definitely contact when I was in their country or their city, because we did really have a strong friendship, which is pretty cool.
So you felt like you got a lot of personal development out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Which was awesome.
And so this was like the first extended period of time that you were traveling by yourself. What was that like?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's definitely like the most time I've spent, I guess, sort of on my own. Maybe the most like independent month I've had. It was, I mean, like I said, I made friends. I became friends with Chelsea right away, and Chelsea and I became super, super close over the 30 days of our training. We ate like pretty much all of our meals together. We were pretty like buddy. We pretty much deemed each other as like, I'm like the big sister she never had, and she's like the little sister I never had, because she's 3 years younger than me. Which is really, really cool to make a friend that close while I was away.
A friend like make such a good friend?
Yeah, make such a close friend. Sorry.
Okay.
Just excuse my poor English. I'm still like in Asian mode.
Did you know any Balinese?
No, I didn't learn a single thing. But when people speak broken English.
Hey, buddy, you want mine?
Yeah, there was points where I was like actually not even making full sentences, because it was easier to speak to people in like broken English because they'd understand it better. Anyways. Yeah, traveling on my own was pretty cool. I mean, I did have one moment where I just felt so overwhelmed and stressed, and I just like left the room and went to my room and just had a little cry. I was like, oh, it's just one of those moments where you just want somebody that knows you so badly to just be able to give you a hug. But it's also really reassuring when you just, sit down and you think about it. And for me, journaling's a huge thing, to just write about it and really realize that you're okay on your own. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, is that I think I've just had this idea in my head my whole life that I need other people. I need friends. I need to have be in a romantic relationship. I need my parents. I need, person ABC. I don't need any of those people.
Do you think that's something you were really thinking about often, like consciously thinking about, like, oh, I need people, or just?
No, I think it's very
an assumption you were making without really.
Yeah, I don't think it was super conscious. Like, I think it's something that you and I have talked about quite a bit. And it's something that I kind of made more of a conscious thing in my head, but I think that it's been very unconscious my entire life. I think just the way we very much as babies, we really do need our parents. We need our mother's milk, or we need somebody to feed us. We need somebody to take care of us. Like, our neck doesn't even support ourselves. So as children, you're really not given credit that you're a fully functioning human. You're still treated as, that baby that really kind of needs other people. And then I think it just carries on throughout life, is that we're brought up in this concept that we need other people, and we are social creatures.
And you do need people,
yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's I think it was in my head is I can't be on my own. And so the trip for me was very much okay, I am a strong, independent person, and I can kind of figure this out by myself.
So you feel a bit more confident now in your skills?
Yeah. And I think assertiveness is something that I've struggled with for quite a while. And just, I spent my last 4 days of my trip in Ubud by myself, and you really do have to be assertive when you're the only person. You can't turn to somebody else and say, hey, can you go ask for the bill? Or, hey, where do you want to eat? It's like, it was weird for me waking up and being like, oh, there's nobody else that has any influence on my day today. I can do absolutely anything I want. I can eat anything I want. I can eat wherever I want. I can eat when I want. I can go to yoga when I want. I can not go to yoga if I don't want. Which I think we talked about a little bit when you got back. Like, it's pretty cool to just really be in control of your whole day and just choose to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you don't really realize as much when you're at home that you're doing things you don't want to be doing.
Yeah, and your time is like dictated by so many things. Like, if you have a job, it's dictated by what time you start and finish work. And, you know, even something like us sitting down for the podcast, it's like we decide together what time works for both of us. So then it's like, you know, you don't have those things when you're just on your own, which is cool. It just, I guess, like, it forces you to be assertive and make independent decisions and really choose what you want to do with your time.
So do you think there's like things you learned by traveling alone that you're going to try to incorporate while you're back here in casa?
In mi casa? Sí. Yeah, I think being assertive and independent is something that I want to continue to apply in my day-to-day life, and really making sure that the things I'm doing are things that I want to be doing, and that I'm doing them, you know, for myself and not just because somebody else wants to be doing them.
One thing I noticed with you being away was that just like with my decision making, like there was times where I was like, oh, I should just like check this with Amanda. And it's like, oh, you can just make this decision, or I can just make this decision on my own. But it's like, you know, when there's someone around, like when you're in a relationship, it's easy to just, you know, give away a little bit of your responsibility because like you're a little bit scared to just make the decision for yourself. But yeah, that's like you like just making decisions on my own and trusting my gut and taking responsibility for myself.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's some big thing that comes from traveling by yourself too. Like you're actually taking personal responsibility for yourself, because like I think a lot of people convince themselves that getting other people's opinions is like good, but like you can really just make your own decisions, and it's just like a way to avoid taking responsibility if something goes wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And that's definitely something that I took away from my trip, especially in terms of like, I feel like a lot of times I'll be like, oh, like, are you hungry? Do you want to go for lunch? Like, okay, let's wait an hour. And I was really able to just be like, oh, I'm hungry right now. I'm going to go eat here. This is what I want to do. And so like some days I'd just be like, oh, I want a smoothie from here. And then I'd like wander for an hour and I'd be like, oh, I'm kind of hungry again. I'll go get a snack from this other place. And I was like, oh, it's kind of cool to just like, you know, just like do as I please type thing in regards to that sort of stuff.
But it's funny because I think when people are like, aren't doing that, like when let's say one person's hungry and they're like, oh, you hungry? I don't know. Are you hungry? No. Like it ends up with like neither person getting what they want pretty like a lot of the time. Like there are some assertive people who like to surround themselves with unassertive people because then they can get those people to do what they want.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what happens is just like no one gets what they want.
Yeah.
I feel like groups function way better when it's just a bunch of people who are taking responsibility and like being assertive. Like, I want to eat right now. And the person's like, I don't really want to. So then the other person goes and eats. And then you don't have this like other stuff building from.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's definitely something that I want to incorporate in my day-to-day life. And I think like you and I have both kind of experienced that independently now. And I'm excited to see the next time we travel, how we can take the independence we've gained apart and put it into a trip, because I think it'll be quite different. And it was also cool too, because my second last night there, I did this volcano hike, and you get up at 2 a.m, like they pick you up at 2 a.m. and they take you to this volcano and you hike it up it in the dark. It takes 2 hours to get up and you watch the sunrise up there, and it's absolutely beautiful. and you're back by 10 a.m., like back in Ubud. So you've had like 8-hour tour by 10 a.m., which is pretty crazy. And I just like, I loved it. I thought it was amazing. And I was, I guess, thinking about, you know, how would that experience have been had you and I done that? You know, would that have been something you wanted to do? Would I have been scared to do that by myself? You know,
would you have been worried if it was something you wanted to do and I didn't really want to do it, and then you're worried about whether I'm liking it or not and stuff like that?
Yeah, totally. Definitely all those things crossed my mind, because I don't know what your thoughts are on getting up at 2 a.m. to hike a volcano for sunrise, but I wasn't sure if that was something you would have been interested in or not. But I was just thinking about, you know, all the different concepts of, yeah, exactly what you just said.
Yeah, it's weird too. Like, I had a couple times when I was traveling, and I noticed, just like thinking about how this would have been different if you had been there, because like there was one night I couldn't find a hostel, and I think I talked about this on that solo travel in Czech Republic episode, but then I was just kind of like, you know, wandering from hostel to hostel to hostel, and then like eventually found like a nice hotel and stayed there. But I was just thinking about like how this would have gone if it hadn't just been me, because I was just pretty like, you know, when you're by yourself, there's nothing, you're just kind of calm, but sometimes with other people get more like agitated with the other people. And
yeah, for sure.
And sorry?
I was going to just say I had a similar sort of experience to that in a different concept. I went to like walk through these rice paddies, and I don't know what I missed, but I ended up on this like road, and I thought that I must just like walk down this road and end up in the main square again. And it turned out that I was 3 kilometers outside of Ubud. And so I just kept asking at stores. I'd just go in and ask like women with children or like older people who seemed like safe if I was going in the direction of Ubud. And I had no idea how far I was until finally some person was like, oh yeah, like that way, and told me how far it was. And I was like, they're like, you want taxi? You want transport? And I was like, oh no, I'm just going to walk. And I walked on a road. Like there's no sidewalks. I walked on the side of the road for like an hour. And the whole time I was just like, you know, I'd have these moments of like, oh my God, how far am I from Ubud? How long am I going to be walking for? And I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like I've got water. Like I'm not hungry. Like I'd eaten a big meal right before doing this. Like I'm fine. And I was just thinking about how, you know, had I been with you, maybe I would have been a bit more stressed. I think I would have really looked to you to ask people where we are. Whereas like by myself, I'm like, okay, I either ask or I don't find out. So I can keep walking and not find out, or I can find somebody that I feel comfortable asking. Yeah.
I just had one more before we get back to like into super Bali stuff, but talking about traveling independently reminded me of just how sometimes we've gone into, like, we had like one like quite large fight that developed out of just not being willing to go do things independently. I think we were like, you wanted to go do a trip in Argentina, like a day trip or a day tour, and I didn't want to because I didn't want to spend the money. And instead of just being like, okay, cool, like I'll go do this, you go do this, we ended up like having a spat over it. But I just think it's like, if you are traveling together, it's important to just be able to both do what you want to do and both be selfish like that, just because it makes things work better.
Totally. And it's important to remember, I mean, that's not just traveling with, you know, like a significant other or a partner. Like that's with anyone that you're traveling with. I feel like you need to be at a level of independence and comfort with yourself, and to just be able to do those things. It's like, okay, like I want to go do this right now. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Do you want to come? Do you not want to come? And being okay with the idea of like, oh no, I'm not actually interested at that. Like, you go ahead, we'll meet up later.
Yeah.
So I think it is, you know, coming from two people who have traveled a lot, I think like we're both kind of on the same wavelength that independent or solo travel is, I think, a really, really good learning experience in terms of kind of like figuring out, just developing independence from your friends and your family and your partners.
Yeah, definitely. So after your 4 weeks of yoga teacher training, you had a couple days left in Bali. So you went to Ubud.
Yes.
What's Ubud all about?
So Ubud was made famous from Eat, Pray, Love.
Really? Is that why?
Yeah, apparently like 10 years ago, it was like no tourists, and now it's just like a massive tourist town. Super like spiritual, blissful, Zen, yoga-esque sort of town.
And it's not on the coast, right?
No, it's like more in the middle, I guess, of Bali. Surrounded by rice paddies. It's super beautiful. Just a few main streets in the town. They've got sidewalks there, which is a win.
So is that the love part of Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes.
Okay.
Love is Bali. She goes there after she gets fat eating pasta in Italy, and then prays in India. She like lives at an ashram and then goes to Bali and just loves life. Anyways.
So they've got sidewalks.
Yeah, they've got sidewalks there. A lot of really good restaurants again. And I kind of stayed on one of the like main roads there. There's a ton of really nice shops. They've got monkey forest, so you can pay like $3 Canadian and you go hang out with a bunch of monkeys. I've got a pretty sweet video of one drinking out of my water bottle, which I actually don't think I've showed you. I'll have to show you that. It's pretty funny. Maybe we'll put it on the show notes if you guys are lucky.
Sure.
Maybe.
It seems really unhygienic.
Well, I let him keep it.
Wait, what?
The monkey drank out of my bottle of water. I didn't take it back and drink out of it after.
Oh, it wasn't like a water bottle. It was just a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Did you actually get, like, he just took the bottle?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there. I was actually making a video of a monkey eating a coconut. Okay. So backstory on this is that, so I was eating a coconut in class one day, and my friend Chelsea made this video of me because I was like super into this coconut, and I didn't even realize she was making a video. That's how into it I was. And she was literally beside me. But I look like this kind of like chubby little monkey balancing a coconut on my belly because I'm all like squashed up, sitting in a squat position, like digging at this coconut. So I see this monkey doing the same thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to make a video of this. So I put my bottle of water down beside me, and I'm making a video. And all of a sudden I hear this like weird noise. And so I whip my camera around, and this monkey has undone my, like the lid off the bottle and is chugging my water. And then it takes it and just throws it aside. And then sits there like kind of like gulping and burping. And it had a baby attached to it.
Whoa, that's
And then
really
it
weird.
took the bottle that was pretty much empty at this point and ran off with it. And I was like, whoa. So yeah, be aware. Don't take a water bottle that you're really attached to because it'll drink it. But yeah, anyways. So Monkey Forest, the flea market in Ubud's pretty cool. And then I spent a lot of time at Yoga Barn, which is like a massive yoga heaven. It's one of the most beautiful studios I've ever been to.
What's special about it?
So it's kind of this like treehouse looking thing, and you go upstairs. And so there's like sort of a huddy roof at the top, and it's like all wooden with like open windows. Really beautiful.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. I'll definitely post some photos of that. It's amazing. So I practiced yoga every day while I was there. Just explored.
So if you were like doing your trip again or giving yourself advice before you left, like what might you change? Or
I would pack less clothing. I did not need as much clothing as I packed for my trip.
What a surprise.
Ryan saw my bag beforehand. I wouldn't change much, to be honest. I think an intensive yoga teacher training was exactly what I wanted. The company I did it through, I was really happy with.
What company was it?
Santosha. They are Australian. I think the one thing is like remembering that Bali is a party place for a lot of people. And so that was kind of my only frustration is I didn't go there to party. I went there to do yoga and get my yoga teacher training. And it's really easy to separate yourself from that. But
separate yourself from
the party.
Okay.
There was people in my course who partied like still like 3 times a night or 3 times a week.
But you mean it was easy for you to separate yourself from it? Yeah,
totally. I mean, I was there for me. I wasn't there for those other people. But I think that, you know, if you are looking to do an intensive yoga teacher training and you want it, you know, strict diet, you want to really get into like...
Because you were still in control of your food and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I ate well and stuff. But if you're looking for like a full-on intensive yoga experience, I'd probably recommend going to India. If you're looking for like an intensive yoga program that's going to give you everything you need to teach, then in like a fun, chill atmosphere, then mine was definitely, it was awesome for that.
Sweet. Well, do you have anything to add before we finish up?
Go to Bali. Bali's amazing.
Yeah, you'd go back to travel somewhere.
Totally. There's so many things I didn't see. So I'd love to go back. Cool. And Indonesia's massive. They've got so many different islands. So 100% I want to go back and explore some more.
Cool. So we will have show notes with links to everything we talked about and maybe that monkey video.
Maybe.
Probably that one. We can put the monkey video in the show notes.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
On our website, theworldwonders.com. If you have any questions about yoga teacher training, or if you're thinking about going somewhere looking for a place, we'd love to answer them. Well, I wouldn't. Amanda would love to answer your question. How can people get a hold of us?
The World Wonders Podcast at gmail.com or our Twitter page.
Or our Facebook page.
Yeah, all the World Wonders.
And also, if you're on your iPhone listening to this podcast right now, in the next 15 seconds, you could really help us out by leaving a review.
Yeah.
Or a rating. Just a rating would be fun.
Yeah. Any feedback. We want to hear it.
It helps us improve our rank on iTunes and gets more people listening to our podcast.
Cool. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.